So if you're wanting to create your own workspace for when you're out live operating, you can see here I've opened this page here because it has nothing on it. We'll go to Show Control Center, and then however many lasers you're planning to use, you can set them here. So you can either set all of your lasers to the same, or I'll set 1, 2, and 3 so that I'm able to send separate frames to each laser. Once you've done that, you can come out of here, and I'll start with number 1. So if I right click on there, you can see it comes up with Edit Scene. Double click on the first line, and you can select Trick Film. This is where you select your laser frame. So it already loads one. You can click on it, and if you press F, it'll make it the full size of the timeline. You can then right click on that. Double click on that. And you can see here, this is our full catalogue of laser frames. So if I just choose a very basic one, we'll just use a square for this one. And then you can see here it says target scanner. So that's which laser is it going to come out of. So where I set them to 1, 2, and 3, I can edit this, and you'll be able to see it down here in your visualization window. You can also set up different zones on your software. So if you say have audience scanning, or if you only have things going to a screen for graphics, but then you also want to do laser beams above the audience, you can set those up, and then you can select them in here. You can also select surfaces. So if you have multiple frames, you can send them to different surfaces. You'll see that in a second. So I've just added one square frame. If I close this and then press laser on, click on this, and you can see there's just a square there. So if I right click on here, I can add effects underneath this. So if we say size X and Y, click on it, press F, double click, and then you can change the parameters there. So if I say set 0 to 1, you can see it's in a linear drop, and here you go. You can also go into minus numbers, so that you can have it kind of reversing on itself. If I set this to sine wave, and there you go, that's quite visible. So you can add lots of different effects. You can add like obviously rotation effects, color effects, change the intensity of each color of the unit. You can also add size effects, and then different things like sparkle, RGB event, which is crazy. So all of the effects will apply to the laser frame that's directly above them. If I add a second laser frame in here, so double click, click Trick Film, click on it, and press F, so it's the full size, and then double click. You can see here it's automatically selected the same frame as the other one. So now down here you can see it's both coming out of the same laser because they're both set to target scanner 1. Because there's no effects underneath this one, the effect isn't affecting it. What I can do is change this to scanner number 2, and you can see there that it's coming out of scanner number 2 instead. Or if I could change it to 3, it's coming out of number 3. So if I leave this to number 2, you can see it's coming out of 2 different places. And press OK. I can then add, double click, I can add a size X and Y. Click, press F, and then double click. So I can then either set this to the same if I want, change it to sine wave, and they'll both do it at the same time. Or obviously I can do it in reverse, so I can set 1 and 0, and each laser will pulse separately. So this is quite useful in shows. You can also stagger them, so you're able to change the phase here. So if you want one laser to kick in before the other, or the slightly offset, you can do that. You can also change steps so that it does its own complete effect. Set that back to 0. So what you can also do, if you double click here, as I was saying, you can set it to different worlds. If I set it back to scanner number 1, so both of the squares are coming out of the same scanner, you can then select this and say go to beam. You can see it's moved up to my beam zone, which is over the audience. Change it back. The surface effect is easier to see when you've got multiple things running. So if I change this to surface number 2, you can see that one of them blanks out the other. So one is actually behind the other. It might make it easier if I change this frame to a different effect. So you can see there that the white square disappears behind this one because surface number 2 is on top of surface number 1. I find this quite useful, especially if you're doing graphics. I can do a company logo inside a love heart and have the love heart pulsing without blanking out the company logo. So inside the software, you can see now if I select another one, it tells you in the corner where this is outputting from. That's because if you open a frame, not everyone wants to, individually program every laser. I can open number 2. So again, we double click, select trick film, click on it, press F, and then if I do, say, a size and X and Y effect, click on it, press F. So you can see now, in the corner it says number 1. That means it's only coming out of projector number 1. These ones are still doing what they do. So whenever you create a new frame, it operates on its own. It doesn't overwrite the other. If I right click on this now, and then once I'm in here, I can double click, change to another laser frame so it's clear. We'll do a star. Press OK. And this wasn't pulsing because I hadn't set 2 different start and finishes. So I can do a square effect so it'll jump a little. So you can see what it's doing now. It's jumping between 0 and 100%. What you can do, if you want it to come out of all your lasers, on the bottom here, no matter what you've programmed into your actual frames, you can click on Overwrite Programmed Routing. So now you can see that frame is coming out of all 3 lasers. And you can see in the corner, it says 1, 2, 3 now. So when you have this this full, if I go back to a full page, you can see some of these say 2, some say 1. And then if I right click on Overwrite Programmed Routing, you can see that it's now coming out of, say, 1 and 3. And that'll show in the corner. So whenever you're doing a show, it's easier to start your own workspace with effects that you want to use specifically for that show. Hope that helps.